So we have a project. We call it OM Champion Project.
Centre de Pelé vers Papin qui dévie habilement vers Chris qui reprend. Et but fantastique de Chris Dimeco dans le paquet. Ils n'ont pas signalé en jeu face à Joël Max et ça va être le but de Chris Waddell. But de Waddell. 1-0 pour l'Olympique de Marseille.
Hi everyone and welcome back to the Marseille View. I'm Stefan, I'm your host, and it's been an exciting few weeks of football with the Euros coming to a close, so congratulations to all those listeners with Italian connections, or if you're Scottish or Irish, I'm sure you enjoyed the tournament as much as I did. But back to OM now, and we're bringing you, which is episode 2 actually of our Summer Mercato series, The Rebuild. So the transfer market has been active to say the least at Marseille, and we've now got, I think, 5 signings confirmed in total, with more on the way in the coming days. So that's 3 or technically 4 new arrivals that we're going to cover today, so that have all happened since we last podcasted. And we've had some movement as well around the departures too. So with the transfer rumours around the club, but just non-stop at the moment, and we've got plenty to talk about tonight. So today with me, I've got Ben. How are you, Ben?
Well, the less we talk about the Euros, the better. But you've already been there and done it, so recovering from that.
I was going to maybe putting together a little segment at the end if you wanted to have a chat about it in more detail.
We can do, but look, it's over now, and thankfully, OM hopefully are giving us something to look forward to. So yeah, happy to carry on the summer rebuild series.
Absolutely. So tonight's agenda sees us talk through our four new signings. So we'll start with Cengiz Ünder and Paul Lopez, as we've got a guest joining us for that part. So we'll talk about Guendouzi and Balerde as well later on, and then we'll discuss the pending arrivals that supposedly are coming later this week. But then what we'll do once we're finished with transfers, coming into the club, we'll look through some of the departures, and then finally, if we get time at the end, we'll discuss, there's been a couple of recent friendlies against Sète and Martigues, and that's the lineup for tonight. So as I said, firstly, to start off tonight, we've kindly been joined by a guest. So we've got Scott Monroe, who's from a Roma podcast, La Magicast. How are you, Scott?
Yeah, all good. Thank you for having me on talking about your 2 new arrivals.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We're very pleased to have you here, and I think hopefully you'll be able to give us some insight into a couple of players that maybe we or our listeners might not know that much about. So Scott, you're going to talk through the 2 new loan signings from Roma. So that's Cengiz Ünder and Paul Lopez. Hopefully I pronounced them okay. Do correct me if not.
Oh no, spot on so far.
It's the Paul Lopez one. That's the one I was struggling with. I had to look that one up. But so before we get started though, Scott, do you want to just say a few words about yourself, like why you were able to tell us about these 2 chaps from AS Roma?
Yeah, so I've been a football fan since 1994. I'm living in Swindon, so I'm a Swindon Town fan, and also love Italian football. Been watching it since the 90s, since it was on Channel 4. So I've been a Roma fan, so I'd probably say 04-05 was my first season following Roma. So I picked probably the worst time to support the club after they won the Scudetto. They've only won 2, maybe or 3 trophies since I supported them, and since I would probably say since March, I've been hosting the La Magicast podcast, which I'm so thankful for doing. I've been on that podcast probably since September, and then I got a message in March to take over as the host, and we've just taken the ball and run forward with it. And we got messages from, I was supposed to do a Tottenham podcast because they were linked with Fonseca, and unfortunately that fell through. And then we got a message from you guys after the 2 signings of Paul Lopez and Cengiz Ünder.
So What we're going to do then is Ben and I are going to just take turns asking you questions. So we'll probably ask a couple for each of the signings, but I think we'll start with Under. So just for our listeners, Cengiz Under is a Turkish winger. He's joined on loan with an option to buy. Now I don't know, Ben. Do you know how much the option is? I don't know if I think it's about 11. Is it 9?
Yeah, I think it's 11 or 12 million.
Yeah, I think it's around that figure.
Okay, so Scott, can you be honest with us? If these two signings are crap, just tell us. We're used to it. But can you tell us just what the profile is of Under as a player? Like, what are his strengths and weaknesses?
So Under, he joined Roma from Istanbul Başakşehir. Thankfully, I've managed to pronounce that right. In the summer of 2017, so he joined after a few players left. So it was sort of a rebuild of the squad in 2018. It took him a while to integrate himself into the squad and into the starting 11. But then I would probably say he had a really good, probably 6 to 8 months. Then in the following season, in like 2018, Roma played Real Madrid in the Champions League, and he missed an absolute sitter from about 3 yards, and it seemed to dent his confidence. And we had like a couple managerial changes. So Eusebio Di Francesco got sacked after the Rome derby and the Porto defeat in March 2019. Claudio Ranieri came in and did well to steady the ship and finished 6th. Then Paulo Fonseca came in. He played the 4-2-3-1. Under started the season well. He scored an absolute screamer. First day of the 2019-2020 season against Genoa. Drew the game 3-3. And you're thinking, all right, new coach, new style of football. He could really kick on. But it didn't really materialise. He was in and out. And his form really, really suffered, where him and Justin Kluivert really were the two wingers at the club, and they were the two wingers starting in Fonseca's 4-2-3-1. And Fonseca had to change the formation to 3-4-2-1, and both were bombed out of the club. And Cengiz went on loan to Leicester last season under Brendan Rodgers and didn't really feature that much. So I think it was the move for both parties was the best for them. And so Roma can wipe the slate clean with a new manager because they've got Jose Mourinho for this coming season. For Cengiz Under to start fresh under probably one of the best South American managers out there at the moment.
Okay, I don't know if you're thinking the same thing as me, Ben, but it sounds very familiar, doesn't it?
We've been here before. We have been here before.
We've got a very similar player by the sounds of it already.
Who would be?
He's called.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Who were you thinking of, Steph? It was him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, he was also at Roma, wasn't he?
Oh, so he was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Who was that? Sorry.
Nemanja Radonic?
Yeah.
I think he may be. I think he may have been the oh God, Roma signed about 20, 25 youngsters in Rudy Garcia's first season.
Exactly that. That was it.
Yeah, I think it might have been that. He might have been one of the players, yeah.
Yeah, he was. He was in the youth team, yeah. Okay, Ben, have you got a question you want to fire away?
Well, I guess it's always mixed bag, isn't it? When these lone journeymen come in, they have a good season, then the manager changes a couple of times, and it's never easy to settle. Especially you guys, I think similarly to Marseille, Roma, they're chasing their past glories. They've seen Lazio go above them a bit, and they're trying to get back up there. And you sort of need confirmed players for that, and you can't afford to carry weights like youngsters who haven't found their feet fully. And he went to Leicester. Leicester had a great season. As you said, he didn't feature much, but from what I've read from Leicester fans, they weren't unhappy with him either. They feel that he didn't get enough time. I guess the main question is, from what I've seen, and this is take this with a pinch of salt because every Turkish player is overhyped by the Turks, right? They seem to really rate his potential and think that he could be a potential leader of their national team in coming years. Have you seen, in his good periods, enough that makes you think he's got real quality? And is his main problem consistency?
I saw glimpses. We saw glimpses when he burst onto the scene. I think he had a really, really good end to the season in 2017-18, and he scored some really, really important goals for Roma when they were chasing the Champions League spot and finished third. And if you remember, they got to the Champions League semi-final that season. The consistency was always a problem with me, and I think quite a few Roma fans on social media. Also, such a young age, like with coming from Turkey with a lot of money, it must have, when he was hitting the low points, you're thinking he needs a little help, maybe off the pitch as well, because Rome, probably like Marseille, it's a pressure cooker. It's so much hype and so much, like, if you do really well for 6 months, you could probably not buy a beer in the city for a while. But when it's really, really low, I've seen it myself when going to Rome and watch games. It's horrible. And I imagine the same is at Marseille. It was his final product, his decision making. Him and Justin Kluivert were the same. Great going forward. And it was the final product was lacking so much time after time, where he was making great runs, and then the final ball to Dzeko, maybe to Daniele De Rossi or Kevin Strootman when he was there, was just lacking, and it really cost him in probably since the last part of 2018 up until when he left for Leicester last summer.
You kind of answered my next question. I was kind of no, that's fine. I was sort of wondering about how he would cope at OM and whether he had sort of mental strength. So, and I did think it's probably going to be the same in Roma, if not worse, because it's in Italy, and if like the fans everywhere are pretty
boisterous.
Yeah, so no, I did think that. So that's not great to hear, I guess. But then maybe he's young. He's still young, isn't he? So
yeah,
he's still young.
You're never optimistic, though, are you?
Come on, he's still young though, right? So maybe he's coming to Marseille at the right time. Let's just hope that.
If he starts well and under your new gaffer, your new coach Sampioli, world's the limit. And if he's got the right environment, and I imagine he wants to play maybe a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. He can fit in on the right side of the attack as like an inverted winger, cutting in on his left foot and then causing havoc to, I imagine, Arkadiusz Milik if he's still not injured, and then providing the goals.
That was actually one of the next question. Is you very helpfully described the systems you've experienced.
Oh, good.
That was my next question as well.
How would you think? Because Sampaoli has played 3-4-3 at times with us since joining, and it's been interesting because we've had Lirola from Fiorentina on the right. He came in, was a star performer. Credit to him. Nobody expected that, but it depends, I guess, what the demands are, isn't it? So you're sort of saying that. Do you think he'd be able to cope with some defensive responsibilities if it was deployed in that system? Yeah,
I've seen him do it for Roma a few times when he's asked to do defensive duties. Like when he first joined the club in like 2017-18, Eusebio Di Francesco played this 4-3-3 vertical, which like I think he got it off Zenit Zemun. If you ever watched Zenit Zemun football in the 90s, it was like 90 goals scored, 80 conceded. So it was like very gung-ho. But yeah, I've seen him do the defending side, but I think I also didn't see it under Fonseca, where time after time the wing-backs were exposed. Sorry, the full-backs were exposed, and like Cengiz Ünder was not coming back to help out. But I think given the right set up in the formation with Marseille, I can see him flourishing.
Brilliant. Okay, now that's interesting, and there's some hope there. Ben, have you got any other questions about this chap, or shall we move on to the goalie?
I guess the only last question, and this is often telling when it's a loan move like this. If he performs well, do you think you guys would have him back? Would you be happy to have him back if you had a need in that position? Or
no.
Do you feel like you guys have drawn the line
I think,
him now?
Yeah, the line has been drawn, and it's like off to pastures new. I think the deal was for both clubs and for the player is best for him.
Oh, that's worrying.
I feel like it's all doom and gloom.
Yeah. Well, there's just it just sounds like Radonjic. We'll just wait and see. I'm not gonna be too negative because Ben's already criticised me for being too negative, and I'll just reserve my judgment until I see him.
I think, yeah, but I think the difference is, Steph, look at Radonic, right? We're struggling to offload him because he's got, he's featured for the national team, but not enough and stuff. The thing is, Cengiz under Turkish international, 23 years old. If he flops or if he does remotely half decently, someone will come in from Turkey at 10 million. So I don't think we'll lose out as much as with Radonic, where we overpaid anyway. I think it's in our interest for him to at least perform at least decently and fill that gap for a couple of years until we get cash to sign someone really good. Because we know that some club in Turkey will come in and put 8 million, 9 million on the table for him. Because they always do like to bring their own back to the country.
All right, so I think with that, then we should probably move on to the goalkeeper. So the second player, so this is our second player, signed from Roma, just joined us the other day. So that's the Spanish goalkeeper, Spanish international, I believe, Paul Lopez. So he's also joining on loan with an option to buy as well. I guess same kind of question for me to start off with. Like, anything you can tell me about his qualities, like the kind of player he is?
Very good on the ball, but Roma played like this time after time last season, playing like a hybrid of a 3-4-2-1 where there's like turned into a 3-1-3-3, and Paul Lopez was like distributing the ball, and he did get caught out a couple of times. To be honest, he had a really good first 5 months when he first joined the club in the summer 2019. Roma played a shed load of money for him from Real Betis, and it was up to about 23 million. He started really, really well. He had some really, really important games for Roma when Roma was starting well. I can remember a game against Bologna where he was pulling saves left, right, and centre. Then Roma won the game in the final minute. I think it was thanks to Edin Dzeko. But he had a bit of a downfall and a bit of a blip, and it all came in the Rome derby in January 2020, where both keepers in that game had absolute shockers. Strakosha, the Albanian goalkeeper for Lazio, let in Dzeko score from, I think it was about 15 yards out with a header, and then Paul Lopez had an absolute shocker moment where he came to claim the ball, parried it onto the crossbar, it rebounded to a Cherby and it went in, and then up until the season stopped and when it restarted like last summer, he was in and out of the team. And then for this season that just went, he was out of the team. He was number 2, and it was going to be Antonio Morante. And then Morante had some poor games. Paul Lopez came in, did well, had a couple of bad games, but one game stands out for me this season where he was excellent and was man of the match, was against Ajax in the first leg of the quarterfinal of the UEFA Europa League. I wish we were in Champions League, but he saved Dusan Tadic's penalty. Just like time after time, was just pulling saves left, right, and centre. And then the Man United game where Roma were 2-1 up and looking really, really good, he got injured and dislocated his shoulder, and Roma suffered badly and lost 6-2. I think it's a bit like Cengiz Under, where he started well, bit of confidence was lacking, but Fonseca brought him back in last season, and he did play well in games, but he did give Roma fans a bit of heart attack problems where he was a bit dilly-dallying on the ball. But I think it'd be a good signing for you guys.
Yeah, I'd read stuff like that actually. I'd looked in articles and Twitter and comments from Roma fans talking about how just like some people, because we sort of understood that he was known for his being a a ball playing goalie, someone that likes to
like
use
a sweeper keeper.
Yeah, sweeper keeper, yeah. Exactly. And but then I'd read comments from Roma fans and stuff saying stuff like, "Don't let him." The ball near his feet because that's where the problem starts. And I'm thinking, well, why the hell are we signing him? Because we want a sweeper keeper. That's what the coach wants. But yeah, so he is good at that. You're saying it's just he's had some issues that sort of dented his confidence.
There was an instant. So we played AC Milan. I think it was a final game in February, and he was sort of fought for Milan second. He tried to play a long ball from out back where there was other passes on. He got intercepted by Davide Calabria, and then that got capitalised. And Milan went in their transition play from back to front in seconds, and then it was 2-1. So he does have the ricket in him, but I think he is a good goalkeeper. I think sometimes there is a ricket in him, and you're on tender hooks. You're thinking, please not today, please not today.
Great. Ben,
I think that's. See, I've never really bought into this commentary because I looked at the stats, and effectively, what you have to realise, and you'll know this, Scott, but when you compare to Mandanda, he's played out from the back 60% more than Mandanda has all season, and obviously it's it's a law of averages. If you play X amount of balls, you're going to fuck up X amount, and it's just statistics. So I hope that Sampaoli and his staff can find the middle ground where he plays out just the right amount and he does it well. And also, you've got to bear in mind he's coming to Ligue 1, which is, I wouldn't say it's worse than Serie A, but it's a different style where transition play is not the same. It doesn't happen as quickly. But I guess the question is mentally. He's still young. You were right, Steph. He has been in and around the Spanish squad. Is this again? The nature of the deal is we don't sign him permanent if he doesn't play more than 20 games. Does it leave you guys short of options? I mean, you're getting Rui Patricio in.
Yeah.
Arguably, it's a no-brainer. He's 10 times better than many keepers out there. But I'm talking more about if he were to come back, would he be a decent number 2 for you guys?
So Roma have got 2 other goalkeepers. So do you remember Robert Olsen, the Swedish goalkeeper from a couple of years ago, had an excellent 2018 World Cup. Roma capitalised and spent 12 million for him to replace Alisson, who went for, I think it was about 70 million. So he was on loan at Everton last season. So he's come back, and they've got a young Brazilian goalkeeper called Daniel Fossato, who played the last, I want to say 5 or 6 games for Roma last season. Did really, really well. He was on loan in Portugal where he didn't get a game. And actually, I think his first league start was actually his first league game for Roma in May against Sampdoria. So we're also signing, as you said, Rui Patricio from Wolves, and Wolves are going to get another Portuguese goalkeeper. So I think we're pretty much stacked in that position if Pau Lopez comes back next summer.
So in your mind, and I guess in the club's mind, the objective is for him to either play enough and play himself into the first team, bearing in mind that we've got an aging goalkeeper, or play well enough that someone else takes notice and offload them anyway.
Yeah, a bit, but I think Roma want to recoup most of the money that they spent on him. It's going to be a loss. I think it's going to be a loss on both of these players, with Under and Lopez. So yeah, they want to recoup their money.
We're not quite sure what to make of that. I think so. Do you? I guess just your opinion. Do you think that he is somewhat? I don't know how much you know about Marseille, but do you think he's someone that can come to this club and I suppose settle in and do a good job, or do you think that it's not going to work out for him based on what you've seen at Roma? Do you think this is the right level for him or not?
I think he'll come in and do well. I think most goalkeepers when they move, they do have that bedding in period, and when it's a new country, maybe learning a new language. He learned Italian very quickly. I gather when it was lockdown as well, he was doing interviews in Italian. I think it was in about 6 months, so that was quite good from him. Spanish, Italian. I remember he was also at Spurs when he was younger, and I think it was Spurs number 3, and I think under Pochettino. So he's played at some big clubs. I think he'll come and do well in Marseille. I do watch a bit of French football because it's on BT Sport. It's really good when you got the good Sunday night games. I think he'll come into Marseille and I think he'll be the number one. I know because you've got an aging Mondondo. He must be close to 35, maybe 36 now.
He's 36.
Ah.
36, yeah.
And he's been an excellent loyal servant for Marseille over the past 10 plus years, apart from when he went to Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
Yep.
he just can't come out. He's an excellent goalkeeper, but as soon as the opposition's 1-on-1 through on goal, he tries to run out and he just fucks it up every time. So,
Arguably, from what Scott's saying, Paul Lopez addresses both those issues because he's got better distribution, which is also another weakness of Mondamba. But yeah, it looks like he's an energetic keeper, plays a bit off his line, and when he doesn't go eccentric, he can cut the long balls out. But I guess that was my final question actually, and you've sort of answered it. But yeah, after him being swung between number one and number two so often at Roma, do you think do you reckon he's now going to see this as an opportunity to establish himself, replace an aging goalkeeper, and really, really establish himself? Does he have the hunger for that?
100%. I can see him doing that. I do have. If you concede a penalty, I do feel sorry for you guys. I think he's only saved one penalty in his Roma career, and that was a crucial one against Ajax. I forgot to add that in earlier. So if one of your three centre-backs or your two centre-backs, if you play with a 4-2-3-1, give away a penalty, I do feel sorry for you. Yeah, but completely agree. Yeah, if he comes in and takes the number one spot from Mandanda, you've got a really good goalkeeper on your hands.
brilliant. Okay. No, that's great to hear, and a bit more positive I'm feeling after this one. Okay, so I think we'll probably maybe wrap that up there because we've got a lot of players to talk about. I think tonight. I don't know if you've seen it.
I guess as a bit of fun, Scott. I mean,
that's all right.
Take this back to your podcast. If you could pick one player from Marseille from last season or our current squad to sign, who would it be? For Roma.
Oh my good! I really like Tarvan, but he's gone to Mexico, hasn't he? Who did he sign for in Mexico? Tigre, yeah. Oh, he's gone. He's partner up with Big Mac, isn't he? Gignac. That's going to be fun because
you got his nickname right.
He's done really well in Mexico. Oh my goodness. I'm just trying to think. Well, I did like Maxime Lopez, but he's been playing last season in Sassuolo, and he was excellent for Sassuolo last season. I watched too much Italian football for anyone's liking. Milik, because he's a goal scorer, but his knees, that's the only concern I have, is that he's injured quite a lot.
He's been linked to Roma as well, I think. So
he was going to sign for. Sorry to interrupt. So he was going to sign for Roma last August, because Edin Dzeko was going to go to Juventus, and Roma had the deal agreed with Napoli, and then something happened with his knees, and then Dzeko decided to stay, and then Milik sat out for 6 months because he was not wanted at Napoli. De Laurentiis despised him for a few months and then shipped him off to you guys.
Yeah, I think it's a believable signing. Actually, I could see that happening even this summer. I wouldn't rule it out entirely. So yeah.
Can I ask one?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
sorry. You've been linked to about 80 million players from Serie A. I've seen you've been linked with Eric Pulgar. Who else from Fiorentina have you been linked with?
Lirola to come back. Lirola to come back.
Yeah, Paolo Lirola. I saw Eric Pulgar the other day.
Is he good?
Yeah, Pulgar's
Chilean,
really good defensive midfielder. So he left Bologna in 2019. He had a release clause, and Fiorentina paid, I think, it's about 10 million euros. And he's a really good defensive midfielder. He's very good on penalties. He's got some awful neck tattoos. I saw if Di Benedetto's still at your club, and I think him and Eric Pulgar can have a tattoo off for worse tattoos. But yeah, I do like Pulgar, and as Ben said, he's a really good defensive midfielder. I rate him really, really highly. I think I think it's 2 years that Fiorentina haven't been great. Fiorentina are like they're a really good club, but they've been really poor for about 4 or 5 years, and they always struggle. But yeah, I think if that deal does go across the line, you've got a really good midfielder, along with another ex-Roman player in Gerson, who signed from Brazil.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep, high expectations from him. Yeah.
Very good on the ball. I think his time at Roma was like they didn't know what his best position was. They played him as a right winger, as like a number 6, maybe a number 8, and then like played him as a number 10. Then he got shipped off to Fiorentina, then went to Brazil, and then Roma got like I think it's 10% of the money. But yeah, like you're signing some very good South American players who are like, if you play Football Manager and like all the other games that you really hyped, like Thiago Almada, really excited to see what he does in France.
If he's not dead,
he's not done yet.
No, he's
is it not done?
No, but
okay, fair enough.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're
But
worried about that one because
it might happen though. There's one of the ones that have been linked with, which maybe is a bit unrealistic, but is Boga, Jeremy Boga.
From Sassuolo, yeah, very good winger. He didn't have the best of seasons last season, but 2019-20, before the pandemic, he was unbelievable. I think Napoli were linked with him last summer for about 20 million, but he got COVID and he got a really bad injury. I think he suffered with long COVID for a little bit, and it really affected him for a while.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's probably too expensive for us now, especially now that we've signed other wingers. But you know, that's great. It's really helpful to hear that, because you know a lot about these players that we're targeting. That you know a lot of our listeners won't be familiar with if they're not following Serie A. So thanks for that. I really appreciate that.
No, not a problem.
You've played yourself into being the regular Serie A consultant now.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help, guys. I'm really happy to help.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much. Right. And take care. Okay, so where are we? We better get back onto this. I've lost my place. Couple more signings to cover. I think about a week ago or so we signed Matteo Guendouzi from Arsenal on loan. So again, another loan with an option to buy, similar priced option, I believe, as well, around about the 11 million mark, if I'm not mistaken. So we knew this one was probably going to happen, and I think we did talk about him from the last podcast briefly. Now that the deal's gone through, how are you feeling about it, Ben?
Yeah, happy. I mean, remember last time we were saying we were excited about this one. Well, I was anyway. I think look, we've got a great player on our hands. You know, he's captain of the French under-21s. He's obviously got potential. The question's always been his attitude. I have blind trust in Sampaoli to manage him properly, to get him to concentrate and concentrate on the pitch. And I'm very excited for him because he brings a style, some of the balls he plays, and his vision and his passing ability. I think we're going to see things from him that we haven't seen from Sanson or Rongier in the last 5 years and Rongier in the last 2. And it's going to be good to have a deep lying playmaker again in the heart of midfield, and he can defend as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to you in the last episode, like I haven't watched a lot of him. I've seen him a couple of times, but it was a couple of years back. But I, remember him being a very technical player, and he's clearly got a lot of skills. He's got good control, good passing. I'm kind of surprised though, like that he's come to us, because I wasn't sure if he would be a player that would fit Sampaoli's sort of method, I guess. Whether that's to do with his sort of his mentality, his attitude, his work rate, I guess, but also like the role that we're going to play him in, because we've signed Gerson, who's the kind of who we think is going to be a box-to-box midfielder, but I think we're assuming that maybe Guendouzi might play as a defensive midfielder if Kamara goes. And I didn't really see him like that. I saw him, as you sort of said, as more of a kind of deep line playmaker. So you think he would fit maybe on the right of a midfield three, or do you expect him to play deep as a 6, as a kind of Pirlo type deep line playmaker?
The beauty is he can play both. So I think that he's more suited. It'd be a shame to waste his attacking qualities because he's got an eye for a pass and he's got decent pace and dribbling, so he could get past a couple of players. But he can also defend. If I had to hazard a guess, and this is probably feeding into a bit of the brief analysis we've done on the two friendlies so far, the transition play we're seeing with Sampaoli is very Bielsa-esque, where I don't know if you remember when we had Bielsa, we had Romao took him back into the defence when we didn't have the ball, and then he was also sort of bombing forwards, not too forwards, but he was playing quite high for a 6, and sometimes venturing on beyond his station, depending on who was participating in the counter-attack. And I think Guendouzi will play a similar role, not necessarily dropping back into defence, but I think he will be, the sort of box-to-box role where he does defend. I think he will play number 8. I just see Jerton as the one who's going to be allowed the most attacking freedom, and I see Guendouzi the one who's going to be sort of bundled with the defensive responsibilities as well as the sort of passing on counter attacks and transition play.
Okay, yeah, I actually think I'm feeling quite optimistic about this signing. I think he's got quality, and I think this might be a good move for both him and the club. And I'm also kind of pleased that we're signing some French players, because we're signing a lot of players from all over the world, it seems, and some of them not with much European experience or any European experience. And I think it's kind of important to have some players in the squad that can speak the language, that might settle in a bit quicker and kind of just bind it all together. And I know he's a young player, he's not going to be a leader as such in the dressing room, perhaps, but I don't know. I think
you'd be surprised. I think you'll be surprised because he's captain of the under-21s at Arsenal. When Emery was there, we had Arsenal had that 22-game unbeaten run. He was one of the leaders. Do you
think he's going to be a bit like a sort of Pogba type swagger about him, that kind of level of confidence from a young age?
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I think he is, but he's also got the negative sides of that in his character that he's working on. I think, and Sampaoli will help. But I honestly think my impression is if Kamara is to go, he will replace him as the young French player that we like. And my hope is, and I'm not confident, but this is my prediction that he will come good. But my hope is that because he's still young, we'll adopt him as an honorary minnow of the club. And if I had to bet, if it comes off, I would predict he's wearing the armband within 2 years.
Wow, I'm surprised that you've said that, honorary Mino at the club, because he's an ex-PSG youth product, isn't he? But I mean, I don't care about that. Okay, so no, that's cool. I'm excited. I'm pleased at what I'm hearing. I'm just going to move it along because of the time, because we've got quite a few things to talk about. So the other player that signed a permanent contract is Leonardo Balerdi. So obviously he was on loan last season, went back to Dortmund. We didn't exercise the option to buy, but we ended up negotiating it down. I think he signed for about, I'm looking at my notes,
8 million.
Well, transfer market says £9.9 million. I
think that's maybe all inclusive, but
okay,
yeah.
Right. So he's come back permanently. Just quickly, are you pleased with that deal? Was that one that you were hoping would go through, or not?
I'm pleased to the extent where I'd be concerned. Well, not concerned, but I'd be a bit more reserved about it if AVB or someone else had finished the season and Sampaoli had never played with him before. But no, we can be as harsh as we want with him, and he did commit a few fuck ups, and he's still learning. And last season, let's not kid ourselves, it was actually his full first professional season in professional football. He'd never played more than a few 15 or 20 odd professional games before that. So what I do remember is that when Sampaoli came in, and moved to that back three for the longest period, I rated him as our best defender in that back three. I think Alvaro struggled. Chuleta was all over the place. His head was gone anyway, but I think he's the type of defender, Chuleta, who is much better in the 4-4-2 because it's more zonal and less covering the wings when the fullbacks are too far forward. But for me, Balerdi was the one who showed the most progress and promise in that system. So I'm happy we negotiated it down. Remember, we discussed this before the Mercato. We were saying I was one of those that said I'd be happy to keep him, but not for the asking price of 15 million. If we have negotiated it down to less than 10 million, if he comes good, he's another one that we can sell minimum for 15, 20 in 2 to 3 years. And Argentinian defenders have tended to do well at Marseille and in Lyon. So I'm optimistic to see what his progress will be, but I'm also relieved that we haven't signed him for too much money.
Yeah, if you remember in the pod last year, I did say repeatedly that I thought that there was a player in there that I thought he did have some talent despite his mistakes. So I think that he's someone who can become an excellent defender, actually, with, as he accumulates experience and confidence. I believe he's got the talent. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do. He's very much a rough diamond, isn't he? But yeah, I guess I feel a little bit of unfair criticism for me. But yeah, I think he should work quite well with this coach. I think the fact that he's Argentinian, the coach knows him well. I think, as you said, he was more suitable to playing in the style of the coach than the other two defenders. He seemed to be able to adapt a bit quicker. Maybe that's partly because he was a bit, I know Chatasar's young, not old either, but he was maybe a bit younger, and he has certain qualities that make that style a bit more suitable for him, playing the high line especially. But yeah, I think, I'm happy with this. I think it's good to have some continuity in the squad and not just have a complete new 11, from one season to the next. So he comes back. He's a player who's already played here last season. He should settle in, and hopefully we'll see him improve upon what he contributed last season. So yeah, I'm happy with this one.
I was just, what I was just thinking. I was trying to remember who's the last player we've signed permanently after a successful loan. I can't remember.
Remy Cabella. Maybe Florian Thauvin.
Could be, yeah, it could be Cabella. Yeah, no, Thauvin, we took him straight from Lille. I think it could be Cabella, yeah, or Alessandrini, maybe.
Sorry, I'm on mute there. Second time we signed Thauvin after he came back from Newcastle on loan.
Yes.
And then,
right, yeah.
So both Thauvin and NG, I think, were loaned and then signed under the McCourt era. Cabella was before, wasn't he? He was, so yeah, it would be Thauvin or NG probably.
Probably.
NG, I think, might be the last one, because I think we probably dilly-dallied about signing NG in a permanent contract.
Thank God, we shouldn't, but hey. No, I say that, look, as we've said before, for me, he played his role in that season. We went Europa League final, he got a couple of important goals. So, anyway, all of that to highlight that it's not often that we sign players permanently after a loan spell, so hopefully it works out well.
So, on the subject of defence, so it looks like we're about to sign 2 new central defenders in the coming days. Possibly we might hear something tonight or tomorrow of an official announcement, but 2 players appear to have agreed deals to join the club, both in Marseille right now. We've seen the photographs on Twitter of them at the airport. So one of them is William Saliba, who joins on loan from Arsenal, supposedly, without an option to buy. So we know Saliba well, from his time at Saint-Etienne, last season on loan at Nice. He's an excellent prospect. I think we probably all agree on that. I think that's unanimous, isn't it? He's an excellent young defender. Hasn't really worked out at Arsenal. He's not been given any opportunities, it seems. Are you happy with this deal? I know a lot of people are not pleased about the fact that there's no option, thinking, well, what's the point in signing him? But nonetheless, do you still think this is a good move for the club?
I don't think the no option thing matters that much, because all you need, look, it takes circumstances, doesn't it? If Arsenal have a good season and finally find, if Gabriel at Arsenal finds his form, and they find an established back four, it's going to be similar to Bellardi, where we had the option, but we didn't take it. But Longoria said today in his press conference that Bellardi had promised him he only wanted Marseille, and he would wait for the right time, the offer to come in, and turn down other clubs up to a certain date, hoping to come back to Marseille. So we'll see. I think it comes back down to that. It's going to be if he has a great season, we'd love to keep him. Maybe we can get him on loan for another season, or maybe, just maybe, Arsenal will be open to sell at that time because they've found an established back four, and Arteta carries on, and he clearly doesn't fancy him. So I'm not too worried about the no option thing. I am not concerned. I'm excited because on paper, he's a brilliant signing. He's a tall, fast player. He's already got 100 plus Ligue 1 games under his belt. But I think you touched on it in your introduction about him. He's still a prospect for me, and you sort of look at the number of players we've signed and the ones that were here last season already in defence. You're sort of thinking that I think it's good that he's going to have a challenge on his hands to play himself into that starting 11, but at the same time, is he going to be, if it doesn't work out and for whatever reason he's not starting after 3 months, is he going to fall into that, I'm only here on loan anyway, lack of effort, not going to give too much effort, because he did well at Nice.
The Cuisance syndrome.
Maybe, yeah, but I mean, he did well at Nice for the end of the season, but that was Nice level, right? And they still lost a few games, and he wasn't perfect, but to his defence, it was him and Todibo had come in as emergency loan signings in January, and it's the first time they'd ever played together. But I fancy his qualities and what I saw at Saint-Etienne. I think there's potential there. My only worry is, has his development been stunted because of the last 18 months of what's happened to him, where he's been farmed out on loan and he's clearly been sort of bullied out of Arsenal in a way. I don't know, what do you think?
Kind of the same, actually. Like I completely agree about the thing about the no option to buy. I don't think it matters, and I think if as you said, if Arsenal's defence is doing well, then they've got no reason to want to bring him back. If they're well covered, and a lot can change if Arteta's still there as well, for example. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I think he's good enough, but one of the things that I'm not sure about is whether or not how he'll get a lot of playing time and how many defenders are we going to go into the season with. I think that might be a problem, because if we're also signing the other guy, which we're going to just talk about now, then it starts adding up, and then the question about whether or not we're actually going to be able to sell Chaleta Sarr and Kamara as well. We might not be able to get rid of both of them, so we might end up with one of them.
I think that's going to be the focus in the next couple of weeks, is going to be selling before we can sign again. I think we've blown our loads now.
Yeah, but Longoria said, though, hasn't he? Said he's not going to sell anyone under price. So, I mean, he's going to say that anyway. He's not going to say.
Yeah, but what's under price? For Chaleta Sarr, what's under price? 20 million, that's good enough.
We can't sell him for anything less than what we paid for him. So yeah, about 20 million. 22 million or something like that, I guess.
I guess Saliba, for me, I rate his technical ability, I rate his qualities. I think that his profile, fast and physical, is what we've been lacking when we've not played Kamara at the back. It's his mental hunger and appetite and ability to respond to Marseille. That's the only question mark for me, but hopefully it comes off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the other guy that we are supposedly going to sign in the next couple of days is a Brazilian defender from Santos. He's called Luan Perez. Now, I don't think we're going to say too much about him. Probably next week's episode or next episode, should these two deals go through, we'll do a bit more in-depth conversation about both these players, Saliba and Luan Perez. But yeah, just from what you know about Luan Perez, what do you think? Is it a player that
Sorry, I think I agree with what you've said. It's probably best we leave this one for next week. All I can tell you is based off of FC YouTube.
Yeah, same.
But also I think it's the main thing I saw in the last few days was the Santos. Is it Santos or Boca? One of a coach from one of the big clubs in South America said wow, I can't believe San Pauli pulled off this deal. He's getting for the price he's getting him for. He's getting the best South American defender in recent years. Hell of a coup for him and Marseille. Hopefully that rings true.
That's interesting, because we've heard similar stuff about Gerson as well, right? About how he's the best player in South America right now. These two players, if they're that good, why are none of them playing for Brazil though? Because Brazil have got a lot of average players in their squad. I've watched them, and
Tite's been there for 5 or 6 years now, and he's very conservative, and his record speaks for him. I think that was when they lost to Argentina on Sunday morning. It was the first defeat in 36 games or something, like Italy. So it's like, what I will say about these two, and it's a hope and a fantasy more than the truth that will unfold, probably knowing Marseille, but I feel like they could be our Chris and our Juninho's that Lyon got 20 years ago. And that's my hope and fantasy, is that these two Brazilian players who were well established in their league and that no other big club went for whatever reason, maybe Longoria has spotted them as diamonds in the rough, and they're going to develop into similar talents as Juninho and Chris did at Lyon, hopefully.
Okay, well, we'll revisit this, I guess, in the next episode, and hopefully we'll try and get someone to join us with a bit more insight into this player who can tell us what we don't know, essentially. So, a few more things to talk about. So, we said we would cover departure, so there's a bit of activity going on. So, already we've seen Kevin Strootman's gone. So, he's gone to Cagliari on loan. Not really a surprise that he's gone out. I think we were expecting maybe he might return to Genoa, where he was last season. But he hasn't gone to Genoa, he's gone to Cagliari. It's not a permanent deal, it's a loan. I suppose the benefit from our perspective is that he's got a huge salary, and I don't think Cagliari are paying the whole salary, though. I believe that they're only paying a part of his salary, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure of the amount, but it seems that the stumbling block with Genoa was that Cagliari offered to pay more than Genoa would have paid. They were hoping to get him in the same conditions as this season, and I think Cagliari came in with a little bit more contribution to the salary, which probably made the difference in Longoria's view.
Okay, so I don't suppose we don't have to spend much on Strootman because we've talked about him leaving before, but are you happy with this deal?
Well, happy. If I was an accountant, I'd be delighted, because we know that we need to free up space. I mean, we've freed up a lot of space on the salaries, but it's nice to free up, for someone who's clearly, I don't think, going to adapt to this system, because he just doesn't have the legs for it, sadly. Yes, it's best deal for all parties, where he goes, gets some game time, and we don't pay so much salary. But I will, I've got more regrets than anything with Strootman, because he was on paper a great profile, a great signing, and I don't feel like he's ever let us down when he's played. I feel like he had limits, but his leadership and his mentality and his sort of, I'll always remember when COVID happened, he, out of his own pocket, bought all of the youth team gym equipment for their homes. I thought he was a good club servant, and thank you for respecting our club, but sorry it didn't work out, and wish you the best. That's it, really. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, I'm a bit disappointed, I guess, just because we threw so much money at him. But we talked about that before. I guess I would just say that I never really felt he was right for the club. Even I wasn't pleased when we were signing him. I didn't think it was the right move. Not even because of how much it was.
His profile.
Yeah, I just didn't think he was. I just didn't think he was the right profile. And at the time, and also because we already knew he was injury prone and stuff, and he wasn't at the level that he had been at before. But at the time, I really wanted Jean Serry from Nice, who, I mean, didn't turn out to be a great player after leaving Nice either, but I really liked him.
He was a bit shit at Bordeaux this season, yeah.
And he's shit in Fulham, wasn't he? But yeah, just at the time, I just liked what I was seeing with him at Nice.
Was the other one from Salzburg.
Yeah, that's right. But
he was like a copy paste of Zambo Anguissa, yeah.
But not hearing much about him either, yeah. So, but yeah, I just really wanted someone different, and I like Seri because he had a style that I thought would be complementary to the Gustavo, I think at the time, someone who was more of a sort of, how would you say, like a kind
more mobile.
Yeah, and more of a sort of deep line playmaker, someone who could just spray passes around and kind of, just keep the play flowing. Kind of a bit like what Valentin Rongier is, but better, But it didn't work out. So it's funny how hindsight's a funny thing, because you realise that some of the players that you really, that you think are perfect at the time don't work out. Over time you can see that actually maybe these guys weren't as good as we thought they were. So it just shows you how transfers is a difficult thing to judge. So yeah. Anyway, so enough about Strootman. He's gone. Another player who could be going pretty soon is Luca Perrin, who I understand is very close to a loan.
Done, apparently.
Yeah,
I think it's done. It's going to be officialised. Longoria more or less wished him good luck for the season earlier, so
yeah,
it seems like it's done. Shout out to Hadi, who probably is through on his second box of tissues but now, crying. But
unless he's his agent, which I'm not ruling out.
He could be. Wouldn't surprise me with Hadi. But
he's got some insider knowledge as well, doesn't he? He's been telling us some things behind the scenes lately. He is. But
I don't know. Perrin, apparently, there's an option 1.5 million. I think that says a lot about what Longoria thinks he can get out of him. Look, he's done well when called upon. He's never caused trouble. Good luck to the lads. He filled the gaps in difficult seasons when we were short on money and short on players. We've had worse players, honestly, in the past come through the youth ranks. Leite Ndiaye and loads of others in that position.
He wasn't
centre back position. No. But what I'm saying is, Perrin, for me, he overall, I'll remember him more fondly or more respectfully than Leite Ndiaye and others that we carried for 3 or 4 years and never did anything, and then ended up leaving on free transfers and not having professional careers. Perrin, I reckon, could have, at the very least, a good Ligue 2 career and hopefully a decent Ligue 1 career in a club like Strasbourg or Brest or somewhere like that.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, I think he's... This is a good move for him, actually. Maybe a little bit above what I was expecting. I thought maybe the rumour about Clermont would have been that would have been a better club for him, like kind of club fighting, sort of run about relegation most likely in Ligue 1, but he might do quite well there. So yeah, I could someone like that, Nîmes, or they're relegated now anyway, aren't they? But yeah, so good luck to him. He actually was. We talked about it in the awards episode, didn't we? We gave him the Revenant Award. He was decent when he
heavily influenced by Hadi. Come on.
No, it was no one else. But
no, exactly. There was no one else.
He did his job when he came in. He was all right. He's a very limited player.
He got a crucial goal away to Montpellier. We were down to 10 men, I think, and he scored what Kevin should have been the winner in that game. For fuck's sake. And look, again,
good luck to him.
He never let us down when he came on, but I don't think he was ever going to be a starter, and even less so with St. Pauli.
Of course not. So, on the subject of minnows, our beloved is clearly on the way out. So, Boubacar Kamara, the days are numbered, really. They really are. And, his contract's up at the end of next season. We've been told that he doesn't want to renew. The club, we understand, have told him that if he doesn't sign a new contract, he doesn't leave this summer, he'll be in the reserves.
That was unconfirmed. But
whether or not that's true, but
that's
what the reports we're hearing are saying. It's very much the writings on the wall, but we're also hearing that there isn't a lot of interest in him, or at least not the kind of interest that the club were hoping for. They're not getting the kind of offers that they wanted. So we're hearing lots of interest from AC Milan, reports that AC Milan have bidded really low ball offers, like €12.5 million plus add-ons. We're hearing that Newcastle, another Chancellor club, no offence, Kerry, who are always trying to nick a wee cheap deal somewhere, with someone who isn't quite where they should be, apparently they're in. So if they're interested, he's going cheap. And then I think we've heard that tonight, in fact, we've heard the most bizarre rumour, which is that Monaco are going to offer up to 30 million for him, which is more the kind of price mark that I think the club obviously want to get for him. It's not maybe what we would have wanted for him back in January, 6 months ago. I think we would have wanted probably quite a bit more than that, but at the moment that's looking like a very good offer. Now, I'll just say my opinion on this. I mean, you all know I've been quite similar with the Tovan departure. For me, like Kamara is absolute stay. I'd rather you re-sign Kamara and you make do with what you've already got. For me, he's the guy you build the team around. He's local. He's from the academy. He's the guy that should be the captain. But it's not how it works in football in reality these days. And he looks like he's going. So I'm disappointed. I want them to try and renew him and give him the kind of offer that I think will convince him to stay. I recognise that the club need to sell. They need to bring in money. They've got the DNCG on their backs. We've not sold well for years. And we've got a huge deficit, don't we? It's like 90-something million euros, I think we heard in the last few weeks. So, yeah, he's a player that's bankable potentially, but he's not really that bankable right now. If he's, a year left in his contract and no one's offering anything for him, maybe, I don't know, I'm just sort of thinking, don't sell him for like 15 million euros. It's going to be a disaster. Just keep him and see if you can renegotiate after the summer when things settle down. That's my feeling, but it's a risk that maybe the club won't want to take because we've lost other players on free transfers like Tovan. It worked with Amavi, but like someone like Tovan, so they're thinking they're probably going to have to sell him. So I'll just say that I don't believe the Monaco rumour personally. I'm not sure if Monaco have got that kind of money, or at least that they're spending that kind of money at the moment. But they're not spending anymore in the same way they were before. I know they've got a very rich owner, but they've been quite tight in recent years. I don't know.
Yes and no. Yes and no, because they did. For me, it's a copy paste of the Tillmans move when they did Tillmans, and
that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
3. I think it was 3 years ago.
It's more than that.
No,
surely.
but it's the same timing where look at where they admit it or not, they've got. Well, they're in the qualifying round, but they're going to be in Champions League. I'd be surprised if they don't make the group stage. So, with that comes a windfall. I just think I've revised my opinion on Kamara in recent months, and I think if from a rival, that's why the price. I think that they will. This is a sounding board where they've spoken to Longoria, and he said it's 30 million for a rival club. We don't want to sell him to you guys, but if you come in with 30 million, which we think is his market value for a rival, let's face it, no one else is coming in anywhere near that, so we'll sell him to you if you could bring the money in. I say take the money and run. If he says he's open to the move and we're happy to take the money, then it's a no-brainer for all parties. But I think, let's face it, if other clubs like Milan and Newcastle are coming in at that price, I'm sort of thinking, and we do this in Marseille all the time, we overhype, especially our younger players, and it's like, is he as good as we think he is? I think his potential is as good as we think it is, but is his current level as good as we think it is? Well, it has been in a very underwhelming Marseille team, but if he goes to a Milan or I don't know, a Napoli or an Ajax, I'm just sounding names, or a Dortmund, I'm not convinced he won't struggle to establish himself in the initial stages there, because he's going into very well-oiled teams that have identities. The bigger clubs expect you to hit the ground running for that price tag, and Monaco would potentially be the perfect perfect springboard to do a couple of seasons there, play Champions League, and then move for 50 million. And hopefully, I trust Longoria to negotiate a 20% sell-on fee or whatever. But it just feels like, I think we missed our chance to hold on to him because we had a shit season. I'm honestly convinced that if we'd have qualified for Champions League, or we had maintained the form that we showed going into Christmas, top 3, there or thereabouts, right until the end, we could have convinced him to sign a new deal in sort of March, April time when we were still in the hunt for the Champions League, because it would have demonstrated some consistency in terms of the club's new direction. It would have demonstrated some continuity. It would have demonstrated that he can continue to test himself against the best. And I think we just missed the boat. And I don't see a scenario where he re-signs, sadly.
Okay, I mean, I admit that maybe we got a bit carried away like 6 months ago when we were talking about him being the new N'Golo Kante and all that. But I mean, I think at the very least he could have a career on the level of someone like Mathieu Flamini, and I think that's a good level. And so I think he is good enough for Marseille to build a team around, and I think he's good enough to go on and have a very good career at a top club.
I agree in the Marseille environment where it's his home, but I'm not convinced he could do it in another environment where it's not his home and he's not in his comfort zone.
I don't know. I mean, he's very young, but a couple of things I will say is that, yeah, as you said, Monaco are a rival. That's another reason why it makes me think that rumour seems a bit unlikely. They're a rival, and that we'll probably be, if we perform next season, is we'll be probably competing with Monaco for running around the same kind of positions around the podium. And two, well, sorry, do you want to sell your big prospect, your biggest prospect, to your rival? I don't know, but two, and I've forgotten what two was. Oh yeah, Monaco also have Tchouaméni, who's plays a kind of similar position, although a very different style of player. Maybe I don't know. It's just like, is Monaco even? Is he the right move for him? Do they really want him? Does he really want to go there? I don't know. Maybe they'll play him at the back.
I think they would. I would expect Monaco to lean on someone like Benjamin Mendy to sell him the move and to say, look, it worked out for him. So I think there is precedent there that he knows that going to Monaco, bigger clubs will take an interest in him because Monaco have lots of credibility on the transfer market, selling their players for when they perform well. And at Marseille, we hopefully we get there in the next 3 to 5 years, but we're not there yet. And it's maybe underwhelming. If I was him and Newcastle are coming in for me, I'd be like, again, no disrespect to Kaylee, but it's like, fuck, you were linked with Chelsea and City and all of that 6 months, a year ago, and now it's Newcastle,
None of those clubs would have been right for him, though, anyway. He wouldn't have been ready for them. But yeah, I do recognise that Monaco maybe isn't so unrealistic in that we've sold so many players to Monaco over the last 25, 30 years. So
and we've bought from them. We bought Edouard Cissé from them in the past, We've bought, we saw Lucas Bernardi, this was 15 years ago, who, for me, I really liked when he was at Marseille. He went there. Benjamin Mendy, we signed Fidel and Rodriguez. It's two clubs that regularly do business. So if it's genuine and it's 30 million, then take it and run, in my opinion. If he's open to it and it happens in the next 2 weeks, then that means we can reinvest the money quickly. Okay,
so one more departure very quickly. So is Pippa Benedetto. He's been linked to Elche in Spain for a while. I think we've seen reports that he might be on the way out for a €7 million deal, which for me, I'll just say €7 million is good money for a 31-year-old. So I would snap their hands off for that personally. But I'm quite happy for him to stay as the second striker to Milik. I think if he stayed, it's not a priority really to recruit a striker. And it isn't a priority really for me right now. So I'm quite happy if he stays, but if he goes, I'm quite happy as well because he didn't have a great season. He is getting on a bit, and if you can get money for him like that, then I think it's a win-win situation. What about you?
100% agree. I think he's also mates with the owner of Elche, so that explains the link to that club. I won't have bad memories of him. He came in, adapted very quickly, scored goals last season. Didn't work out this season, similarly for the rest of the team. And yet again, as we've debated many times, he didn't have the right profile to fit into the players that were there that were supposed to feed him, because I think they were built around target men profiles like Mitroglou and Gomez before that. And he just didn't have that profile. It worked for a while, and then as soon as Thauvin came back and the attacks was unbalanced, he was just more and more isolated. Take the money and run. Again, take the money. Thank you, Benedetto. You did well. But if it means that we can either promote Dieng, that we'll touch on this briefly, I think, afterwards when we cover briefly the friendlies. But Dieng's been very impressive so far in pre-season, or reinvest 10 million or 15 million on Terem Murphy or Simeone that I'm not 100% convinced about, but that's still at the very, very vague rumour stage, thankfully. But if it means we can take a punt on a younger number 2 striker that could replace Milik if he leaves next summer or he gets injured, then I'm all for it, definitely.
Okay, yeah, I think actually we will move on to those friendlies. So just to finish off for tonight, so I think that's all the transfer stuff covered. So there was a couple of friendlies in the last week, so one against Martigues and one against Set. I didn't see either of them. They were on Twitch, but they were running it, I've just not really been following with the Euros and stuff like that. It's been other football on. Yeah, you caught the games, didn't you? So just anything you want to share with us about these two friendlies? They're not made. They're just what they are, aren't they? They're just a kickabout. But anything you saw that you want to share?
They played 3 halves of 30 minutes. Stopped halves. Sorry, three. Geez, how do you even say three?
Parts.
Can't say halves or quarters, can you? Yeah.
Thirds.
Three portions.
So thirds.
Yeah, 3/3. Yeah, the 3/3 of 30 minutes. I'm not really a fan usually because we'd only been back in training for a week. I'm not usually a fan of friendlies this early. You'd usually expect it to be 3 weeks in, but we've got a lot more friendlies lined up. Unfortunately, against bigger opposition such as Villarreal, Saint-Etienne, Braga. So I'll watch those more intently. The thing I have seen is the shape, which is still 3 at the back. It has shifted from 3 to 2 at points in the games, but the first game I thought Dieng was quite impressive. He got an assist for Benedetto, and his movement and he seems fit. He seems up for it already. So fair play to the young lad. Alvaro he's a bit of a diesel. He's an older gent, so he needs a bit more time to get his legs back, I think. But he's been a bit shocking in the first few games. Camara was good. The shape, Rongier for me is one of the standout ones. So we've all seen the videos and pictures. He looks really fit and really ripped. Like he just looks like he's put on a lot of muscle. And he's looked like he's being deployed more attacking than what we've seen him, which hopefully he's worked on his shooting because that's been dire, but he seems to be more energetic and a lot more physical and holding onto the ball a lot more, which is good. But I think in the last game, certainly against Set, Jackson was very impressive. I mean, we've seen the videos of him and stuff, and you knew the sort of profile of technical Brazilian midfielder, but he seems like he's slotted in very quickly. He was finding passes and opening space up very, very, I'd say very at ease, and it looked like he'd been here for a couple of years. So hopefully that confirms itself in the next few games. I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that he's coming out of, they were playing the full-on season in Brazil. So fitness and readiness and sharpness won't be an issue for him. I fully expect him to have a slump in October, November time when his legs give a bit and he needs a rest. But he's impressed me so far. And I think the system, we all debated whether we would go back to the alleged preferred Sampaoli 4-3-3, but he has still played with 3 at the back with 2 wide players. Enrique has been very good as well. So I'm liking the fact that he's trying out these systems and he's using the one that we tried and tested with from last year with players that should be adapted to that system, the majority of them. But I'm also curious to see what it can do in a 4-3-3 if we decide to switch either during games or before games, depending on the opponent. So it seems like the fact we've got all the signings in pretty early, or the majority of them anyway, and the fact that we've got a number of friendlies to play between now and the start of Ligue 1, I'm getting quite optimistic and excited personally.
No, that's fine. That's good. There's some interesting things there to hear about. So just pleased to hear about Gerson really, and that some of the players are looking fresh already. Okay, I mean, we'll look at some of the friendlies anyway when we've got some good friendlies coming up anyway against teams like Villarreal and stuff. I think Benfica might be one of them as well. So we'll probably cover them in the coming pods and get more of an idea about the team and how it's going to look next season. But yeah, so I think I was hoping that we'd have a nice little chat about the Euros and the final and all that, but I think we've probably run out of time, Ben. So I think we'll
what
have
is
to
what
move
is
it.
this to say? England lost on penalties yet again, mate. There's nothing more to say.
Just hearing it sounds great. Sorry, I'll let it go. But yeah, no. Thanks. It was a enjoyable chat and that about all the latest news. Things are looking positive. Yeah, I'm kind of excited. So looking forward to the next one, and hopefully we'll have some more players in the door. Thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah, it was good. Thanks again to Scott and to Leonardo and our American friend. Jesus, I remember his surname, but I can't remember his first name. But thank you to all the guest speakers who are giving us insight on the players. And yeah, hopefully we have more guest speakers because we signed loads more players
That we don't know anything about. Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone. Yeah, thanks for listening.